Imagine this. You're going about your day feeling okay, maybe a little bit off, but nothing major. Unbeknownst to you, your stress levels are starting to creep up, heading towards a full blown panic attack. But then, out of nowhere, your dog nudges you, just a gentle nudge, but it's a signal they've picked up on something that maybe you haven't, your rising cortisol levels. They've alerted you to an oncoming panic attack, giving you precious time to use those breathing techniques you learned in therapy before the panic sets in. That's the extraordinary life changing power of medical alert service dogs. Your dog can literally smell your stress before you're even consciously aware your cortisol levels are rising. For anyone dealing with regular panic attacks, this is truly a game changer. We all know dogs have amazing noses, but it's not just about sniffing out a dropped piece of food. It's about being able to pinpoint specific, minute chemical changes in your body and alert you to them. For anyone dealing with regular panic attacks, this is a game changer and it's something that many dogs can learn. But it does take skill and training to teach your dog not just to sniff out, the standard drop piece of food or the dead squirrel they find in the bush, but being able to pinpoint and alert you to specific minute chemical changes in your body and alert you to them. So in this episode, that's exactly what we're going to explore: how to unlock your dog's incredible nose for medical alert training so that your dog can alert you to panic attacks. This is such an important topic and one I'm excited to share with you all in today's episode. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Collab Dog Training Podcast, where we believe the most successful service dog teams train through collaboration, not control. I'm your host, Lisa Gallegos, certified professional dog trainer and Atlas Assistance Dog certified dog trainer, as well as the founder of Collab Dog Training. Whether you're self-training a service dog or you just want to better understand how scent training works, then you're in the right place. Let's dive in. In the opening, we talked about your dog sensing your rising cortisol before you even know it. So first, let's discuss what is cortisol for those who might not know. Cortisol is your body's main stress hormone, and it spikes during moments of anxiety, emotional overwhelm, or trauma. Our dogs can detect these changes through scent, which makes cortisol one of the most accessible targets for medical alert work. But the first step, rather than teaching your dog an alert, is to build a strong positive association with the scent itself, which is going to be the foundation of reliable medical alert training. Now, I do want to mention, though, that there are some of us who are so lucky to have a dog that just naturally alerts to your stress responses on their own without any training. And maybe they alert you with a bark, or maybe they alert you with some other signal. And so that kind of training, if your dog is already alerting you, is just going to be making sure that you are reinforcing your dog and having your dog do a different alert if you don't want them to bark out in public. Ultimately, if your dog is already alerting you, you don't necessarily have to do these steps of sample collection. But for our dogs that aren't maybe naturally alerting us, then this is how we would train our dogs. I should mention too, for the most part, training any kind of alert training related to odor, all of them are going to follow this basic framework, but maybe slightly different. So obviously sample collection will be different if you are training for something else like an allergen or blood sugar. And there are some slight nuances and differences as we kind of progress into the training. But this first stage of basically pairing the odor and helping our dogs imprint on that odor, which is basically a term saying that we're conditioning our dog to know that the odor holds value. These beginning stage steps are going to be pretty similar. I also want to mention that there are many ways to train this. This is one way to train. Know that there are other ways to train, and the other ways to train are not incorrect. Okay, so we know what cortisol is and why it's important, but now let's get real practical. To train your dog for medical alerts, you need something tangible: samples of that cortisol scent or odor. Now, some of you might be thinking that sounds tedious, but this is a really important step, and it is absolutely crucial to get this right because this is going to be the foundation. And just like a foundation for a house, if it's shaky, the whole structure will be unstable. We want our dogs to reliably alert to stress. And if we want this, we need to give them clear, consistent samples to work with. So, the best way to collect a scent sample for cortisol is going to be through your sweat. And you want to collect it on your chest. If you're a female or anyone who wears a bra, it would be where your bra line is. And basically, it's actually easier if you wear a bra because then you can place a clean cotton pad or sterile gauze tucked underneath your bra line. And anytime you do have a panic attack, then you're going to save this gauze or cotton pad and store it. It's really important that you have clean gloves or tweezers to remove it to prevent cross contamination of odors because we want our dogs to understand, especially in the very beginning, what the odor is that we're trying to target. You're going to immediately store it in an unused Ziploc bag, and you can label the bag with the date and whether it's hot or later we'll introduce neutral samples. Right now we're just collecting the hot samples. So you're going to write hot on it, which means that it is a stress sample. Finally, you're going to freeze the sample right away. This preserves the scent and keeps it stable for later use. It's really important that we collect our samples without cross contamination because when odors mix, they smell different, and then your training sample won't be as clear. In the beginning, they're not imprinted onto that scent yet. You should be very clear throughout the whole training process, but especially in the very beginning, it's really important to make sure that you have a clear, pure scent sample so you are setting up your dog for success. The next stage, once you have your samples, is to introduce the scent with some basic pairing games. I like to use boxes. So you'll first grab 2 boxes or maybe even like the tops of a shoe box if your dog is a little bit nervous at first about putting their head into like a deep box. But one of these boxes is going to be the magic box, or the technical term would be a quote hot box because it has the actual odor in it. But inside this magic box, you're going to place your cortisol sample along with a tasty treat. The other box is going to be our decoy, and it's just there so that your dog learns to check which box is going to have the odor sample. It's important that we don't switch the boxes around. The magic box with the cortisol sample and treat is always going to be the magic box because we don't want to cross contaminate once again. Because if you place the odor in the box and then the next day you use a different box as the main box, the other box is still going to have remnants of that odor. So we just want to make sure we're not cross contaminating. For now, you're going to go into a familiar space like I use my bedroom, place the 2 boxes in the room and open the door and let your dog wander in and smell. Now, all you're going to do is absolutely nothing. Resist the urge to guide your dog towards the box or point to the box. We want our dogs to gain the confidence to sniff and explore at their own pace. Eventually, they will stumble upon the magic box, and this is where they're going to eat the treat. We're doing this through something called classical conditioning. So the treat is right next to the odor, and basically when they find the treat, the odor is going to be present there as well. So we're pairing the two together. And so literally all of the work is in the setup, at least in this stage, and your dog just has to go find the thing. Now, if you're used to doing a lot of training with your dog, don't be surprised if the first time your dog just stares at you, confused. They might be thinking, what's the cue? What are my instructions? What are we doing? Make sure you're inviting them to investigate independently. Try not to make eye contact with your dog. Once they do find the treat in the magic box, be sure to praise them. A simple good boy or good girl is perfect. We don't want to make it too exciting, especially if you're doing a few of these in a row, because then they might go back into like training mode where they're looking to you for what to do next. The key here, though, is zero pressure. You don't want to add cues. You don't want to necessarily have expectations yet. We're just letting our dogs take the lead, learning through their own curiosity, realizing that this scent is awesome. And the reason why I like using boxes in the beginning, because then they start to first, at least in these beginning stages, know they need to be checking out boxes, and they actually do sniff the boxes, which helps them breathe in the odor. You'll know once your dog understands the game because they're going to start sniffing each box and try to figure out which one has the treat in it. From there, you can start to generalize without getting too into the weeds on the science of how odor travels. You can make it harder by moving the boxes on its side so that the odor isn't traveling as much or like up against a wall, because then the odor kind of bounces off the wall and less of it is going to travel out of the box. But in the beginning, we're just trying to keep it really, really easy by just moving the boxes into different spots, moving them into harder spaces, and then eventually we'll bring it outside and things like that. But first, just try to get your dog to start sniffing each box. I forgot to mention too, we're also adding more boxes into the mix too, more decoy boxes so that your dog has to sniff out and find the odor and the box with the odor and the treat. Like I said, eventually we are going to fade out the boxes and eventually we're going to fade out the food next to the odor. But those are in the later stages of training. The first stage is really going to take a long time. So it's really just focusing on helping your dog imprint on that target odor. You may have noticed we haven't really discussed an alert behavior yet, and that's because we need to teach them this separately. And we'll pair the alert at the very end or towards the end of training. What you can do right now is think about what you want the alert behavior to be and teach that separately as its own cue so that when you reach the end stages of this training, your dog at least already has it on verbal cue. The alert behavior, whatever you want it to be, is going to be personal preference, but ideally, I don't ever recommend barking because you don't want to interrupt stores and draw attention to you while out in public. Technically, under the ADA, it can be a bark, but we also don't want to disrupt stores if it's not completely necessary. But some common alerts that I do recommend are things like a nose poke or licking of the hand. I do like a paw tap as well, but we have to be careful we're not teaching them to scratch us unless you don't mind, but most people don't want to be scratched. We want to teach them to lightly place their paw onto you so that they're not scratching you or injuring you when they're alerting you. Either way, though, like I said, we need to teach them this separately first because we want the dog to first feel confident recognizing the target odor. So we've covered a lot of ground today about getting started with cortisol alert training. Now, I know many of you are working towards being able to have full public access with your service dog. I do want to mention that even if, let's say you have a dog that has like really bad anxiety and they can't be out in public, I still find that doing this training is helpful for even just at home. Like if you happen to get panic attacks at home, this can be helpful and you can almost have your dog just be at home with you and help you in this way without going out in public. But I do know that many people are working on that public access training. So for those of you who are, I did create a mini course called the Psychiatric Service Dog A to Z Blueprint. It's just $19 right now. And you can get a complete training plan that covers everything you need to do to prepare your dog for successful public access. We're talking step-by-step guidance, exercises, and all the tips I've learned from my years of experience. It's designed to take the guesswork out of training and give you a clear roadmap to success. So if you're serious about getting your dog ready for public access, this blueprint is going to be a game changer. You can find the link in the show notes, or you can find a list of all of my courses at collabdogtraining.com/courses. Now, let's do a quick recap of what we covered today. So first, we talked about how the sample collection needs to be clean, consistent, and not cross-contaminated. We need to build odor value with pairing games before we ask for any alerts. And that stage is going to take a long time. So you're going to be on that stage for a while. You want to generalize the scent to different environments early on. And then you'll train the alert behavior as a separate skill first, and then eventually we'll tie it all together. So that's it. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to share it with a friend and leave a review to help others discover this show. And remember, if you want that complete roadmap to preparing your dog for public access, be sure to check out my Psychiatric Service Dog A to Z Blueprint, available now for just $19 in the show notes. Thanks for joining me today on the Collab Dog Training Podcast. Looking forward to seeing you in the next episode.